Okay, let's dive into this. We're talking about the American lawn. You know, that perfect green rectangle of grass that seems so simple, so fundamentally American. But here's the thing. What if I told you it's one of the most complex and consequential inventions in our country's history? That's right, the humble lawn is actually a cultural artifact. It's not just grass, it's an idea that was literally manufactured, a piece of living history that tells this incredible story about wealth, community, and our whole relationship with nature itself. And that's really the big question we're digging into today. How did this green carpet get rolled out across the entire continent? And more importantly, what's the hidden price tag that comes with keeping it so perfect? To figure that out, well, we have to go back a few hundred years. See, the whole idea of a lawn, it didn't even start here in the States. It began as this massive status symbol for European aristocrats. If you had this huge, useless stretch of perfectly trimmed grass, it basically screamed to the world that you were so rich you could afford to waste land just to look good. It was the ultimate power move. But that aristocratic toy was totally transformed into an American middle-class necessity by three key figures. You can think of them as the philosophers who literally designed the blueprint for the modern lawn right inside the American mind. So first up is Andrew Jackson Downing. Back in the 1840s, he was kind of the nation's first big-name landscape guru. He saw that fancy English style, but he knew it had to be changed up for American homes, for the middle class, not just the mega-wealthy. And this was his revolutionary idea. Downing said that a beautiful lawn wasn't just about looking nice, it was about morality. A well-kept yard meant you were a good, civilized person. He literally connected good grass with having good character. It's wild. Next, we've got Frederick Law Olmsted, the legendary designer of Central Park. He took Downing's idea of an individual lawn and just blew it up to the scale of an entire community. For Olmsted, landscape architecture was a tool for social engineering. He imagined this unbounded, democratic river of lawn. What does that even mean, right? Well, he designed suburbs like Riverside, Illinois, with no fences. Your lawn just flowed right into your neighbors, creating this one giant, unified, democratic green space. And that brings us to our third guy, Frank J. Scott, who took all these lofty ideas and basically turned them into a social mandate. In 1870, he published a book that became the unofficial rule book for every suburban yard in America. And Scott did not mess around. He said maintaining your lawn was a civic duty. If you didn't, he called you a slattern, which is an old-timey word for a slob, who was letting down the whole neighborhood. He's the one who hammered home the idea that your lawn wasn't just yours. It was one patch in the great green quilt of America. And just like that, the social pressure was officially on. So the philosophical groundwork was all laid out. But it took the massive boom after World War II to turn the lawn from an ideal into a mass-produced standard, something stamped onto the landscape from coast to coast. Enter Levittown. Using assembly line techniques, William Levitt built entire towns of identical houses for soldiers coming home. And guess what every single one of these cookie-cutter homes came with? A pre-seeded, manicured lawn. It wasn't an add-on anymore. It was part of the factory-installed American dream. And the government was basically pouring gasoline on this fire. The GI Bill made low-interest loans available to millions, and homeownership just exploded, jumping from 44% to over 60% in just 20 years. More houses meant more suburbs, and more suburbs meant millions upon millions of brand new lawn. And then three powerful forces came together to build the whole lawn care industry. First, you had commerce. Companies like Scott's packaged the dream of a perfect lawn and put it in a bag you could buy at any store. Then came technology. The power mowers suddenly made it possible for one person to manage a whole yard. And finally, media delivered the knockout punch. When Americans saw the almost electric green of the Augusta National Golf Course on color TV for the very first time, bam, a new, impossibly high standard was set for everyone. So, the lawn became this national icon. But this perfectly manicured dream has a really dark side. So let's pull back that green carpet and take a hard look at the staggering environmental price we pay to keep this thing alive. $8 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is the amount of water we pour onto our grass every single day. The lawn is America's single largest irrigated crop, and it drinks up enough water every year to fill the entire Chesapeake Bay. And it's not just the water. The chemical and fossil fuel bill it's just off the charts. We dump millions of tons of fertilizer on the ground, which runs off into our rivers and creates these massive dead zones in the ocean. We use pesticides at a rate 20 times higher per acre than industrial farms do. And we burn 800 million gallons of gas in mowers so inefficient that 1 hour of mowing pollutes as much as driving a brand new car for 11 hours. And this chemical cocktail isn't just an environmental problem, it's a health problem. Studies have linked common lawn chemicals to cancers and neurological disorders in humans, especially in kids. For our pets, it's just as scary, with a documented 4-fold increase in bladder cancer in some dog breeds. And for wildlife, well, the impact is simply catastrophic. So all of this has led to a real conflict that's playing out in suburbs all across the country right now. A modern turf war is brewing, pitting neighbor against neighbor and homeowners against the rulebook. On one side, you've got homeowners associations, or HOAs, which govern over 75 million Americans. Their goal is uniformity. They want that traditional manicured look. But on the other side, you have homeowners who want to turn their yards into functioning ecosystems, planting native flowers and creating habitats. It's a fundamental clash of values, conformity versus ecology. And, the data really shows these eco-conscious homeowners are onto something. Alternatives like Clover lawns, which actually used to be standard in lawn seed mixes, can cut water and cost by over 60%, all while naturally fertilizing the soil. And native lawns can support 2 to 3 times more insect species, which are the absolute foundation of our entire ecosystem. These aren't just fringe ideas. They are practical, beneficial solutions. So this brings us right back to where we started. The American lawn was an invention, a symbol that was created to mean something about who we are. But as we learn more about its true cost, maybe it's time for a new invention. Maybe the new American dream isn't a sterile green carpet, but a yard that's truly alive. What would our neighborhoods even look like then?